Hello, we are live here. It's Maize and Blue Review coming to you from two different spots in Michigan. Josh, you're in Howell. I'm in Trenton. We're Maize and Blue Review. Josh is the publisher. I'm the senior editor, and as always, welcome to Hail to the podcast, our weekly show where we dissect Michigan football and soon basketball at large. So, a lot to talk about, a lot to unpack. There's the obvious actions and just what took place last week between Michigan and Michigan State. On the field is hardly just the discussion. It's about the tunnel. It's about what happened there. We don't, we'll go into it, but plenty to discuss there. Also, plenty to discuss with where Michigan goes from here. I mean, everything is right in front of them, but at the same time, what needs to get better in order for them to jump that hump, because they are number 5 in the college football playoff rankings, not number 4. And I know that doesn't matter. I know that there's rankings every week, and the only rankings that matter are the last ones. I understand that, but without the coach speak and without the easy answer, Josh, we'll start with that. What do you take away from Michigan's college football playoff ranking? What do you think it means that they have to do in order to get to the playoff, which I think was kind of a part of the deal anyway? And where do you see things for Michigan? Is it simply just beat Ohio State and you're in, and lose and you're out, or is there a path for them to get in with a loss to the Buckeyes this year?
Yeah. Do I think Michigan is the 5th ranked team in the country? No. Do I think they deserve to be behind Clemson? No. Does it matter? No. Ultimately, yeah, Michigan needs to just take care of its own business. I mean, would you like to get help along the way? Would you like to see Ohio State drop one before they face Michigan? Yes. But, at the end of the day, all it comes down to is taking care of business. I mean, yes, there is a hypothetical situation where one of these top teams loses elsewhere in the SEC. I mean, that's a very top-heavy SEC top 4. Tennessee plays Georgia this weekend, so we'll kind of get a glimpse of, whether this, 2-team race in the SEC is legitimate for a college playoff spot, because you always got to have to factor in Alabama as well. But yeah, I mean, if you're Michigan, yeah, you got to take care of business. But at the same time, I mean, yeah, if there's a chance for you to get some help to, get in where you perhaps lost to Ohio State, then yeah, you would like that. But again, all it comes down to is taking care of business. I don't know how favorably, the committee would look at, if Michigan played Ohio State close and lost, or vice versa, where Ohio State played Michigan close and lost. I don't know how much they value that. And I get the sense, considering where they have Michigan and not showing them very much respect, when really, when you look at it, Clemson and Michigan have a very similar, I guess, strength of schedule. And I would kind of, outside of the non-conference, I mean, Michigan had a top 10 blowout win over Penn State, and Clemson can't boast that. So I get the sense that they're not going to do Michigan any favors in terms of, getting them in where they may not any other year. So, yeah, I mean, ideally, it's just going to come down to Michigan taking care of its own business, winning the remaining games on the schedule, and go from there. I mean, none of this really matters if you lose a game between now and Ohio State, and especially if you lose 2. So,
Right.
yeah, I mean, the phrase might be cliche, winning you're in, but it really holds true to this right now.
The only way Michigan could find itself, or Ohio State could find itself, into the college football playoff without a win over their arch rival, Michigan being Ohio State being Michigan, would be some chaos, right? You'd have to hope for some bias with the Big Ten over the SEC, which is a hard thing to bargain.
Yeah.
And for some things to go your way, Tennessee or Georgia or Alabama would need to be, one of them would need to be completely out of the picture, undebatably, and then you're going to have to outbeat another one likely as well. Let's look at what Antoine said here. Ohio State's non-record is just a touch better, non-conference record is just a touch better than ours. This committee only uses criteria that fits their narrative. Yeah, I mean, the committee is kind of like made itself pretty transparent that it doesn't have any rules or guidelines, or it's kind of like targeting or a catch in the NFL. It's a thing. Nobody knows what it is, but it's a thing. And that's kind of what the college football playoff committee is. Those rankings are, we could do a whole show about what I think about those rankings. But anyway, Michigan plays Rutgers on Saturday. Before we move on to that, we will, is there anything else we really need to touch on about the tunnel incident? I feel like we've said our piece on that. I feel like we've gotten to the conclusion that assault is not a thing you should do if you're a human being. Yeah. And so that realm of it is settled. And then the realm that is Michigan and how it's affected by this, I guess maybe we can talk about that. I think it's really one of those things where Jim Harbaugh said they're traumatized. And how could you not be? Nobody imagines that. Nobody prepares for that, right? That's like stuff you hear of from, I know people say back in my day and all that. It's kind of like one of those stories where it's like, oh, back in my day, the Spartans went to the tunnel and just did what they did. But aside from the tunnel, I guess, do you have any, from an insider's perspective, but also from a personal perspective? Let's say you don't have any intel here, but if not, tell me how you think about it. But is there any effect that's going to carry over? You think it's like a hangover game for Michigan? I mean, we were talking about it earlier this week. Like it was like a funeral after that game on Saturday at Michigan Stadium. You would have thought they lost that. You would have thought that was the fumble the punt game.
Yeah.
And they won and dominated and handled them. But obviously we know why they were upset and not celebrating a win. But do you think that carries over? Do you think this is sort of like a hangover? Or do you think that this team and their mental fortitude that they preach so much really comes to light now more than ever?
Yeah, I mean, this is, I think, we've pretty much, beaten this tunnel situation to death. So I won't really speak on it a whole hell of a lot. I mean, we know it's bad. Assault is bad. People who are defending the assault are obviously water carriers for the Michigan State program and don't want to lose their sources. So, they'll try to kiss as much ass as possible to keep their sources and not make the Michigan State program look bad, even though it is. And so shame on them for the people who are trying to defend this and trying to justify this. But it is what it is. There's going to be people like that out there, and it's sad. But sometimes keeping sources are more important than telling the truth, and that's kind of what our industry has turned into these days. But as far as looking forward to Rutgers, I don't think it's going to be an issue. I don't think it's going to be an issue. I think Michigan has too much at stake here in these next 4 games to really worry about the emotional letdown. I don't think they can afford the emotional letdown, and I think they understand that. I mean, I don't think this is anything new or obvious, not obvious that we're talking about. I mean, they understand what's at stake. They understand what's happening these next couple of weeks, and with a potential top 25 showdown against an Illinois team that's come out of nowhere. So there's too much important football at stake, too much at stake for them to take things lightly and take a week off and kind of act like it can cruise into the end of November, because it's not looking like that. Fortunately, they've got Rutgers this week and Nebraska next week. So, I mean, they should be able to win by default because both teams aren't very good. But,
right.
This week is going to be a little different because, and I've seen it on the chat here a couple of times, and I think we should talk about it. The injury update that we posted on our boards today. I'm definitely not going to hide from it. Michigan is going to be without some players this week. They're gonna the fortunate thing, I will say before I give any names or anything like that, the most fortunate thing about all of this is that they're banged up. This isn't these guys are going to be out for this many amount of weeks. It's just they're banged up. They could go, but the coaches, out of abundance of caution, have decided to sit a bunch of guys. I've been able to confirm that Jeff Percy will start at left tackle tomorrow for Ryan Hayes. Ryan Hayes won't be able to make the trip. Mozzie Smith won't be able to make the trip. Makari Page won't be able to make the trip. Jalen Harrell won't play tomorrow, and Kalel Mullings won't be able to play tomorrow. I mean, that's a pretty hefty list of guys. That when you look at that and go, wow, that's a lot of guys, and it's true. But fortunately, they're in a position where they can afford to sit these guys because they've got depth. I mean, Jeff Percy is kind of an interesting one because he hasn't played any significant snaps in his entire career. So this is a big moment for him. It's a big moment for him. And obviously, and I'm not expecting Jamon Green to play this week either. So that's kind of another one that really didn't get thrown into the mix, but kind of to be expected. So Will Johnson's going to get thrown in there. But yeah, I mean, when you first look at that list, you're alarmed because obviously Mozzie Smith is an anchor on the defensive line. Jalen Harrell has played played some good football this year. So, these are losses for sure, but again, it's great opportunity for these young guys. Mason Graham could fill in right there. We might see a little bit more Kenneth Grant mixed in there too with Mozzie Smith's absence. But, personally, obviously you're concerned. I mean, that's not good to lose that many players, but just from the overall attitude and the mood around the program, it just doesn't seem like these guys are going to be out for very long. It's kind of a mixture of, these guys are banged up and we're sitting them for this week. And there's a mixture of, some guys wouldn't be able to play regardless of who the opponent was. So I'm not concerned with the longevity of these injuries. I expect them maybe not next week either. I don't know for a fact. I just know for this week. So, maybe some are back next week. Maybe some are rested again for Illinois. But, specifically on Saturday, they will be with a bunch of guys on defense. But again, it's fortunate that they have taken these hits in spots where they can afford to plug guys in. Not necessarily plug guys in of the same output, but giving big opportunities for guys like Will Johnson, Mason Graham, RJ Moten will get more snaps in for Makari Page as well. So yeah, I mean, and look, again, you're facing Rutgers, and it's a night game in Piscataway. We all know Michigan's had some issues there, but this Rutgers team is pretty bad, and Michigan is playing some really good football right now. And this isn't the Rutgers of 2020 and the Rutgers game of 2021 where Michigan was just kind of trying to figure things out. This is Michigan hitting its stride, and the next two games, fortunately, are gimme games, and where they can afford to lose some guys at some spots. So unfortunate. But we'll see what happens. I don't expect these guys to be a big. I mean, maybe it affects the overall spread of the game, but I don't think it really changes much of the outcome and of what Michigan's going to look like tomorrow.
As far as how these two teams stack up, there's a lot of things to look at from a general perspective. Everyone knows by now S&P Plus is a metric that I like to use a lot, and we like to use a lot of M&BR to kind of see where things weigh in the power ratings as opposed to the polls. And Rutgers is 118th offensively, so this is a very bad Rutgers team on offense. Yeah. But defensively, they're 29th. So it's about what you'd expect from a Greg Schiano coach Rutgers team. They're excellent defensively, but still just can't figure it out on offense. And when or will, I don't know. I don't know if that's ever going to happen. I know it hasn't this year. Mm-hmm. And one thing you have to have against Michigan is a really good offense. And I think that maybe Michigan kind of understood that when they decided some of these kids were going to take a game off. Right. Maybe that's why there's only one offensive starter missing as opposed to the several on defense, because Rutgers poses a much bigger threat to the offense than it does the defense. The defense is, or the offense for Rutgers, I mean, is just, buddy.
It's bad. Really bad.
It's hard to watch. It's borderline puke material. It's bad. I was texting for those at home who want a little bit of a BTS perspective. I texted Josh like 2 days ago, and he said, I don't even know what he said. All I remember was replying, "I'm watching Rutgers film" with a puke emoji, and accurate. It's bad. I watched them play Indiana, and it was like Indiana dominated, like early on and often. Took the kick return back. The special teams aren't that great either. They're ranked 45th by S&P Plus, but the coverage is just bad. I think AJ Henning taking one back would not be surprising at all. I know we haven't heard his name much lately, but seems like a thing that could happen on Saturday, given the matchup. So S&P Plus, how do these two teams stack up? Michigan is fifth overall, and I'm sorry, Michigan is fourth overall in S&P Plus. Let me double confirm that just so everyone has the right information at home. Yeah, Michigan's fourth in S&P Plus overall this week. They're 12th offensively. It's the first week that they're outside of the top 10 in offense all season. They were one of only two teams to be ranked in the top 10 in offense, defense, and special teams by S&P Plus. The other was Georgia. Now Alabama joins them, I believe. And Michigan now exits that category with the 12th overall offense, 4th overall defense, and 9th best special teams according to SP Plus. Rutgers, on the other hand, 118th, as we discussed, offensively, 29th defensively, and 45th on special teams. Where do they stack up as far as advanced analytics go? Glad you asked. All right. Michigan's offense versus Rutgers' defense. Michigan's rush success, third in the country. Look, we can sit here and talk about the rush success metric. Michigan has the best run game in college football. I'm not saying that because I write about Michigan. I think everyone would openly admit that in college football, there are very few teams who can run the ball like Michigan. Kansas State is running the ball extremely well. I mean, they might be up there, but very few. And Illinois, obviously, they might be the one who's actually first, now that I think about it out loud. But regardless, rush success, Michigan third, Rutgers 41st defensively in rush success. And this is the metric where I kind of get a little bit weary, Josh. It's called line yards. It's essentially how much space the runner is going to have from his line, and then on the flip side, defensively, it's how much they push back. And where Michigan ranks 11th in that category among offensive lines in the country, Rutgers' defensive line ranks 9th. So they'll finally have a bit of a trench battle. They really haven't had that. I know that last week was supposed to be it, but it wasn't. If it goes anything like last week, no Mozzie Smith, no Jalen Harrell, you start to wonder, trench play is really the name of the game for Michigan, and Mozzie Smith is definitely the centerpiece. I mean, he's the strongest dude in college football. He's number one freak and all, whatever they called him. Yeah. So that's interesting. Pass success, Michigan 7th in the country. Rutgers' defense 36th. Pass blocking, Michigan 21st. Obviously, that metric a bit skewed without Ryan Hayes. And then Rutgers' defense against the pass, 19th. Havoc rating, Michigan's 27th and Rutgers is 37th. And then this is kind of where it starts to separate itself. And I think this is ultimately going to be your deciding X factor. And this is what we'll talk about, Josh. It's called finishing drives. It's probably the number one metric looked at nowadays that wasn't so much looked at before. It's a really good metric in betting edges as well. It's just basically tells the story of if teams score or not. And if you're a fan of Michigan football, then you've realized over the past couple of weeks, they're struggling to do that. And especially in the red zone, and finishing drives is a huge metric. Well, despite the last 2 weeks, Michigan still ranks 17th in that category. That probably has to do with the first 4 games of the season being, the first 3, I should say, being like a runway for them once they got past the 50. But Rutgers' defense ranks 76th in defending finishing drives. So I really think that this could be a game where Michigan gets it right. And we heard JJ. So here's the thing with Michigan. Like, typically they're like, we don't think there's a problem with the red zone. Things just didn't work out. JJ McCarthy was like, hey, we have an issue. We're going to work on it and we're going to get better at it. And I respected that because typically it's more like, it's not really the vibe you get in the past. And I think that he was openly honest about the fact that they have issues with the red zone. I mean, it was evident last week. It was evident against Penn State early on too. Yeah. This is a game where they are hot off of that conversation and motivation, and they're also getting a matchup that really favors them. So what do you think about what Michigan can do in the red zone? Do they push that needle this week? Do they get a little bit creative? What do you think there?
Yeah, I look at Rutgers numbers on defense, and I see a lot of skewed numbers. I mean, their schedule isn't. I guess if Michigan played Rutgers' schedule, it wouldn't be very difficult. I mean, I would love to see. I would love to see what Rutgers did, against the likes of Ohio State and against the likes of, the tougher teams on the schedule. It's I just don't know if these numbers are legitimate. I mean, yeah, I mean you've got a good sample size there. You got what, like 9 or 10 games to pick from, but you got to consider the opponents, and I don't think um and I'm just looking at the comments here, and he was, and this a blank name basically just pulled what exactly I was going to say. I mean, Shiano is good. He's a great defensive coordinator, he's a great defensive mind, but I think blank name nails it here. The lack of talent is going to be exploited, and it was exploited against Ohio State, and it's going to be exploited against the better teams in the conference. So, I think Michigan has the chance to really kind of, I guess, work on issues. I don't know if you can fix it necessarily. I mean, I don't think if Michigan has a great game in the red zone and turning 6 points into, turning 3 points into 7 points, I don't think that means, it's fixed, everything's good. It's hunky dory over here. I think there's a lot of, it's a step in the right direction. I just don't think it's, the final remaining 3 weeks. Oh yeah, everything's great. It's been fixed. It's been fixed. You got to show something consistent, and I think some consistency in the red zone, is important. And I'm sure Matt Weiss and Sherrone Moore are sitting there just thanking a higher power for Jake Moody for being so automatic. I mean, it doesn't matter where you are, whether you're, it's a 35-yard field goal, 45-yard field goal, a 55-yard field goal. Having a kicker that's basically automatic is probably the most important thing for Michigan, because they can't finish these drives, but you're almost guaranteed to walk away with points every time. So that part is just is huge. And again, we talk about defense and offenses and defenses in the red zone all the time. I mean, it's hard to score when you're in the red zone. Everything's so compacted. The defenses are right on top of you, and it's hard to score on offense. So yeah, Michigan's red zone drive percentage is good, because Jake Moody has been what he's been all year, and that's a huge advantage for Michigan, because again, as I said, you're going to walk away with points regardless of where you are, because if you can't get it in the end zone, Moody's going to give you 3 points. So again, if Michigan goes perfect in their drives in the red zone and scores every time, I'm not going to sit here and go, oh, everything's fixed. It's all good. Nothing to worry about. You just need consistency. And, again, do you go for it on 4th down, or do you allow yourself to kick a field goal? I mean, there's a lot of factors into it. But I think if Michigan's able to find the end zone consistently, if they get into red zone situations, it's a step in the right direction. I don't think, that's playing Rutgers is the magical ingredient that's been missing for this group. But it's definitely a help. So, yeah, I mean, from an offensive standpoint, I think that's the biggest glaring issue Michigan has, outside of, not showing off much of a deep passing game. But, it is what it is. That's just Michigan. Michigan's offense is Michigan's offense. I mean, it's what it's going to be and what it's always going to be under Jim Harbaugh. I mean, we can talk, it's funny. We talk all in the offseason. Oh, this is going to be Michigan's best passing game in years. And at the end of the day, Michigan is what Michigan is always going to be. And, maybe they get more creative. Maybe they involve the passing game, in the red zone. But, it's clear that things have to get fixed. I mean, that's clear. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say everything is hunky dory for Michigan on offense, because it's far from it. But, yeah, converting those red zone opportunities to 6 points is going to be huge, regardless. I don't think it's going to make a big impact. It's not going to be a difference maker in the game, but it's going to be a difference maker for the rest of the year, for sure.
Captain Banana Peel, who is a real person, allegedly, So if we're not playing guys that can play because we're taking Rutgers lightly, yada yada, these are injuries. They are hurt. Just want to point that out. They're not pulling them out to rest. It's not like load management. It's not like Kawhi Leonard. This isn't the NBA. This is like these guys are hurt. They shouldn't be playing. They've been playing through it, and they're taking a rest. Whatever, maybe banged up with whatever. So just keep that in mind. All right, let's take it over. We're gonna like super quickly zoom through the defense, the Michigan defensive numbers versus Rutgers' offensive numbers. We don't need to talk about this or break it down. I don't think there is something we can talk about towards the tail end that I'll segue us into, but I mean, this is going to be exactly what you think it is. So rush success, Michigan's defense is 20th, which is shocking. I thought they would be much higher, but 20th against the rush success in the country, defensive rush success. And then Rutgers is 53rd. And then this is where things start to hit the wagon, guys. Everyone who was worried about this game, I saw a comment in there that said they were worried about this game being similar to 2016 Iowa, who had two NFL defensive backs on the team. I don't think the two compare personally. Look, like I'll eat a sock if they lose this game. Trust me. Here we go. This is where you guys are gonna like ease your mind.
Very specific.
Yeah, just stay right here, and you're about to be nice and relaxed. So, Rutgers' offensive line is 85th in the country in line yards. Michigan's defensive line is 11th. Rutgers' pass success is 124th. And Michigan's pass success is 7th. Rutgers' pass blocking 103rd. Michigan against the true pass sets 17th. Havoc rating, Rutgers' offense 68th. Michigan's defense 48th. And then lastly, finishing drives, Rutgers' offense 114th. Michigan's defense is 47th. Yeah, so Michigan has got the edge. This is the difference in the game, guys. I mean, here's the thing, man. I would be more worried about the Makari Page situation if Michigan didn't have RJ Moten, but they have this luxury of having three really good safeties. And I know if they've played with three safeties, so maybe there's some package adjustments there, or maybe we see a substitute on Saturday that we haven't seen a lot of snaps out of this year. I mean, it could be a multitude of names, right? Who do you think it would be?
At safety, probably a Keon Sabb.
Yeah, because I was thinking Keon Sabb too, and I'm like, there's got to be somebody. Well, Caden Kolzar,
he's out for the year,
though. So it's not going to be him. So yeah, it probably will be like a Keon Sabb or somebody from that group. You'd have to think it would be Sabb, though. I think he's easily the most talented, but not sure how much that matters, right? So we'll move on to where we're going to make a point here. So this is pace of play, and I thought this was extremely interesting. If you guys are expecting this game to be fun, well, I hope you like football that takes forever. Well, it should take quickly. It's just going to bleed out and be like watching paint dry. Michigan is 124th in the country in seconds per play. They're 29.9 seconds per play. So it takes Michigan 2 full game minutes to go through 2 plays on average. Rutgers is 108th in that category because they're at 28.5 seconds. Michigan's at 29.9. Michigan's like half a second away from being the slowest team in the country. So bet the under. If you missed sharpening the edge earlier, our betting show, that's what I was advocating for, and I will bring that point up again. But with that in mind, I mean, with all those metrics, all those numbers thrown at us, Josh, I mean, look, I mean, I think Rutgers is going to give Michigan some fits on defense. Rutgers' defense will give Michigan's offense fits, I should say. And we might see some struggle there. I don't think we see it early on. I think it's kind of like the same story as always with Michigan's offense. Maybe they come out hot, slow down a little bit. Rutgers starts to adjust. I just don't see this Rutgers offense being able to do anything. Michigan's, once again, they got overtaken for a week in PFF tackling after last week's game. They're now back to number 1. Alabama had overtaken them for 1 week, but now Michigan back on top. They're the best tackling team in the country. Not to mention Rutgers is 7th in that category. So Rutgers, one of the better tackling teams in college football as well. I don't see it. I don't see it happening. I don't see anything Rutgers has that could counter what Michigan does. I think the only thing they can do is slow down Michigan's offense. I still see this as a 35-7 final. Personally, where are you at with it?
Yeah, I think I had like 41-7. I think my prediction was, and I don't think my prediction is going to change with these guys being out either. But yeah, I mean, Rutgers, Rutgers offense. Oh boy. They fired their offensive coordinator a few weeks ago. They don't really have a quarterback. They keep bouncing between Noah Vedral and I'm forgetting the other guy's name. I can't remember his name. He's a New Jersey native, and I can't remember his name right now. But yeah, they're bouncing between him and the other guy that I can't remember his name right now. He's the starter this week. So you're 10 weeks into the season, and you don't really know what your quarterback situation looks like. I just don't think Michigan has it, and they don't have Isaiah Pacheco anymore, and who's a stud. So I think their offense is not good, not good. And I just, again, it's one of these. I think I say this every week. For those who are worried about the game, and I said this about Michigan State, is I don't think Rutgers has the goods to keep up, to keep trading punches with Michigan, especially offense. It's yeah. I mean, if you're expecting a shootout, it's just not going to happen. I mean, Michigan had to have laid the most giant egg possible on defense to keep trading scores with a Rutgers offense that's just putrid, absolutely putrid. So yeah, I'm still sticking to my 41-7 prediction, despite a bunch of guys being out. I think again, this defense is going to be a good test for JJ. I mean, I guess that's the positive silver lining out of all of this. JJ is going to be challenged. The offense is going to be challenged. Does the passing game finally get opened up this week? Doubt it, but it's always a fun talking point for us every week about prognosticating about whether that happens or not, but never does. But yeah, I mean, Rutgers just doesn't have it. They just do not have it. They don't have it.
When will they? But that's longer than a podcast. Well, that's longer than a podcast will take. All right, let's end it up with. We're going to end off the show with this segment. Going to ask a couple of questions to each other, and then also, if you guys want to chime in with your opinions in the comments, feel free to as well. Feel free to drop questions too in the comments, guys. If we have some time at the end, we'll get to a couple of them and answer them. So, buy or sell, we like to do this segment every week, and it's getting more fun as the season goes on. So, buy or sell, we talked about Illinois a couple of weeks ago. Actually, that was like, what was that, week 4, week 5, where they were 4-1 and kind of ascending. Well, here we are now, and they're firmly in the mix of this whole thing, which is crazy to say, but it's kind of like it's not by accident. Like, they're playing really, really good football, especially defensively, and they're running the heck out of the ball, controlling possession, and really just forcing teams to beat them. Similar to Michigan, they're playing a lot of like Michigan-esque football right now.
Yeah.
So are you buying or selling that Illinois is a threat to Michigan, not in a trap game way, meaning not in that they're before Michigan or before Ohio State? Take that out of it. Is Illinois a threat simply because of the team that they have this year and how they've performed?
It's tough because I haven't really watched much Illinois because that's the unfortunate part of this job, and I'm not complaining by any means, but we don't get to watch much football on the weekends, considering where Michigan plays and things like that. So I haven't personally been able to watch a whole heck of a lot of Illinois football. I saw a game earlier in the year, and they're a completely different team than what they were back then.
Yep.
I don't think I think it's gone beyond a trap game now. I think Illinois is legitimizing themselves in the Big Ten to make them a considerable threat. Do I think they're a threat? Yes, but I still think Michigan will win. I think Michigan is more talented, but it's going to be interesting to see two teams who are very similar to each other go against one another. I mean, there's not too many teams that play the type of football that Illinois and Michigan do these days, and let alone be successful at it. Michigan's offense is you can say what it is. It's outdated. There's some new wrinkles thrown in there, but this is old school smash mouth football. A lot of people like it, and I think it'll be a good game. But I am buying that Illinois is a threat, but I think it'll be good enough to give them a game, and it's certainly going to be a Big Ten championship rematch if Michigan's able to win out the rest of the way for sure. Illinois is going to win the West, and it's going to be a fun game for sure. And fortunately, Michigan has them at home too, which is another bonus.
Somebody mentioned Darius Clemens in the comments, to which I say, I don't know why he's not playing. And
yeah,
of course, everyone's response is, my response is like, I don't know what goes on in practice. So who am I to say why, if he should or should not play, yada, yada, yada. What I do know is they don't have anybody else like him in that program. And they could really use someone like him right now in the red zone. But hey, I don't go to the team. So buy or sell, Michigan's red zone offense will ultimately be its Achilles heel.
I buy it. I buy it. If I don't think field goals are going to beat Ohio State. Touchdowns are going to beat Ohio State, and you got to get those problems fixed. We saw last year the big thing for Michigan was to beat Ohio State was to take advantage of these drives that they had and score and lengthy drives. It really took the will out of their opponents. So yeah, I absolutely buy that it could be an issue down the road, and it could be an issue against Illinois too. I mean, it's fortunately it hasn't bitten them yet, but at the same time, it's kicking field goals is going to get you beat, and you hope that it doesn't end up getting you beat, but it certainly can, and I definitely buy it. That could be, if there was a downfall for Michigan, that would be the number one issue to suggest.
Lastly, on the buy or sell, before we wrap things up, can RJ Moten retake his position in Makari Page's absence?
I sell that. I think Makari Page is playing excellent football, but again, this is a great opportunity for Page for Moten to get out there and show that he's worthy of more snaps. I'm kind of surprised that his production has dropped, but at the same time, I think that goes to show how well Makari Page has played. So, I buy that he would take back his place, I sell that he takes back his place, but it's good that you have that guy like Moten in your pocket.
All right, that just about does it for us today. If there's any other questions before we head out, go ahead and get those in now. If I see them before the end of the outro, I will mention them. But if not, michigan.rivals.com. Make sure you guys head over there and check us out. Sign up today, and our code is good until tomorrow, right?
Midnight tonight.
Till midnight tonight. All right, give them the spiel.
Yep, it's we'll give you 50% off a 1-year subscription. Use code M&BR 1 year for 50% off a year. For those in our YouTube, I will drop the link to sign up in the comments. But yeah, if you want to join us and talk some football, we're really fun community. It's a great place to be, and we'd love to have you. M&BR 1 year code for 50% off of 1 year, and let's have some fun. And Brandon's
I'm adding a ticker to the bottom there.
There we go.
There you go. That's beautiful. How you go sign up. That's how you get 50% off. That's how you get this inside intel ASAP. Like, Rocky, come sign up today. Join us in the den. Talk some sports. Talk some ball. Be a man about it. Join Maize and Blue Review. All right. With all that being said, for Josh, do we got anything in here? There we go. O-line is not struggling past pro. What are you watching?
I think that's a response to the comment in the I think that's a discussion going on in our comments.
Gotcha. All right, cool. Glad we don't have to talk about that. All right, Michigan used a 4 wide receiver set. Yeah, that was smart. Again, anytime they can isolate one of those 2 running backs, they're doing something good for their team. All right. Looks like that's it. Cool. So for Josh Henschke, I am Brandon Justice, and this has been Hail to the Podcast. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy watching the game, even though it's a night game for the second straight week, which is miserable for all of us. Trust me.
Yep.
But enjoy your weekend. Watch some football. It's an away game. Kick back at home and enjoy yourself. Come join us, michigan.rivals.com. Use code UM1 year before midnight and get 50% off your first year at Maize and Blue Review.